Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of How to Screw Up. I'm Piyush Verma, a startup founder, a product builder, a creator, and a storyteller with over 10 years of experience in the startup world. Uh, 4 of those years were spent at my own startup, which eventually tanked. 3 years post that, I worked at a startup, which sort of tanked, and I'm still continuing to work in the same industry, not as an entrepreneur, but with someone who still works at building business. A lot of my job also requires interacting with startups and building businesses with them. So, in this season, in these episodes, I'm attempting to break down and figure out the kind of mistakes that I made as a startup founder and some mistakes that I see other founders make at their own startup uh, in the best way I can to be able to articulate and help anyone who's thinking of starting up. So, yeah, if you haven't seen an introduction, that's in the first episode. The playlist is going to be linked in the description, so you can check that out. But otherwise, let's begin with the second episode and the first learning. So I guess if anyone's trying to or anyone's wanting to start up, the first question that you need to ask yourself is who you are. So you see, in the startup world, there are three types of people, and while it's not a rule, it's a nice combination to have all three of them on board, especially if you're a very small team and you're, let's say, you've got three founders. One is the hacker, the person who actually builds the product, puts together the hardware, the software, whatever that is. The second is the hustler, the person who actually brings in the business, makes the sales, figures out the pricing, how it goes, anything related to money. And the third one is the hippie. So this is a slightly more artistic role, I guess, but the hippie sort of helps the hustler and the hacker in being able to build a USP, and not just a technical USP, but uh, in being able to build a story, being able to add character to the products that you build. So this trio of individuals, if you can find all three of them, align them, then it's considered to be a pretty solid team. So the question now is, which one of them are you? And this is something that I wish I knew before starting. You see, as a kid, I was always somebody who was enamored with machines. I would open up toys, break them, rebuild them, modify them even. And that passion sort of kept growing, especially towards motorcycles. So back when I was in high school, just entering college, uh, in India we had the custom motorcycle scene that was growing, and some of the OGs of the scene were Rajputana Customs, Old Delhi Motorcycles, and I was completely in love with these guys, and I used to follow their builds, and I always dreamt of the day that I would have my own garage and I'd be building these motorcycles. These motorcycles to me were, uh, you know, an art form that I could also create. I also wanted to create, in fact. So, and as someone who's always been building or creating something with their own hands, to me, the entire process of making things was my medium of expression. Uh, we had already discussed that we'll be exploring the themes of entrepreneurship, expression, and existence. So I guess this became a very strong motivational factor for me to start up. Now, coming to college, I studied Bachelor's of Mechanical Engineering, and when I was in my second semester, you could call me trying to be a people pleaser or just a nerd, but in this class called the Elements of Mechanical Engineering, I actually carried the piston of an engine and was just showing it around in class. What happened is this one other student approached me and he's like, dude, do you want to like take part in these SAE competitions where we go build cars and race? Uh, that sounded like music to my ears because if you're able to build uh, cars, that means I learn a lot about building things, especially automotive, and that would probably take me a step closer to be able to build motorcycles, custom motorcycles in the future. That's how I met one of my co-founders, Nishant, who's honestly one of the best builders that I've seen, and I've met. Uh, so yeah, that started my 3 year long journey in college of building Baja cars. So we used to build these off-road buggies, and we used to go race them in another state in the country. And we did pretty well. We stood 120th in the first year, but in just a matter of 3 years, we were 20th in the country. So that experience was life changing. Uh, I barely had attendance in college, but I knew how to build a car from the ground up, the whole chassis, suspension, geometry, you name it. After that, uh, core jobs in the mechanical industry are usually scarce, and lo and behold, I did not get a core job. I, in fact, got a job in the IT industry, which I refused to take. So the other option that I had was this garage that was quite close to our college, but it was like a super bike garage, and we knew this guy during college, and it also used to be our hangout place after college hours. So I figured why not ask him if he has something to do for me. Uh, so the fact that he had seen us build all those cars through our college meant that he actually knew what we were capable of, and he started out offering us small jobs where we would build a few parts, accessories for the custom motorcycles that he was building. I mean, uh, and we were paid based on the part and the complexity of it, and so on and so forth. But I was honestly living my dream there. I was another step closer to being able to build motorcycles. Uh, but a few months down the line, the garage kind of started shutting down, and I had I wasn't even getting paid very well, so I had to figure out another way to earn money and also sort of establish myself, I guess. So I started applying at to other companies. I started applying to dealerships. I was rejected from a lot of automotive dealerships saying that I was too entrepreneurial for my own good. I don't did not understand what that meant. Kind of do, but that's a topic for another day. But yeah, uh, then in what I'd call, 20 seconds of insane courage, me, my other friend Nishant, and another friend from college, we were all batchmates. We decided, like, we know how to build stuff. We built 3 cars, and while working at the garage, we gained some more experience of, uh, building things. We also sort of understood how we could price ourselves, but uh, yeah, no, that wasn't like the best understanding of it. But we decided, let's just build a garage. Uh, one thought, kind of uh, led to another, and along with the garage, we decided let's also build a cafe. So the idea was that people could come drop off their vehicles, motorcycles for service, and they could rest at the cafe, grab a bite and wait until their vehicles were ready and they could drive out. This garage would also serve as a base, a prototyping workshop, if you will, for us to be able to figure out how we would want to enter the electric vehicle industry. So we hadn't really figured the exact product or the problem that we were going to build or solve, but we thought, that this could be a segue into that. And hence we started up. Now, where does the question of who I am come into the picture? So you see, for me, building things was always about the joy of creation. And a startup, it is about the joy of creation, you see, but then it is also about a lot of other things. And one of those things is scale. And when you're scaling, uh, you take one product and you make it grow. You make it go from prototypes, to the first batch production. You hand it over to customers, you mass produce it, and then you plan for its end of life. So you're actually uh, a lot of your time, years in fact, especially in the automotive industry, are going to go around one particular product. And the kind of person that I am, I like working in seasons that way. Let's build one custom bike. I've spent a good 3 to 6 months, ideating, building, fabricating, delivering. But then I want to move on to the next project. So I was sort of the hippie who didn't realize was the hippie and was trying to act like the hustler or the hacker. But at the core of all of it, I was actually just the hippie. So the question, I guess, that have to ask yourself if you're trying to start up is that why are you really doing it? And just get a glimpse of how your life could look in the next 5 to 10 years if you pursued that path. And the internet has a lot of glimpses. I'm sure you'll find something. But then also be okay with the fact that you will be living that life and you could absolutely enjoy it. Some people are just waiting to live that kind of life. But if it does not align with the core of who you are, then it might be a good uh, thing to take pause and rethink. Uh, like in my case, could I have achieved that same joy of creating things without starting up? Could I have done that as a hobby? Uh, you know, did I really have to start up? Maybe I couldn't have pursued that as a hobby immediately back then when I was actually looking for a job and wasn't settled in yet. But maybe I could have used my other skills, and I was just a fresher in the industry, so I could have just picked this kind of skill that was tolerable but would pay. And then, of course, I could have pursued this as a hobby. And that's kind of also how I was pursuing photography, you know. And yeah, I mean, the core of it is, do you really know who you are? And are you sure that that is what you want to do? Of course, you can't really have a perfect answer. There is no perfect answer, but have an answer. That is probably going to be a good space to start with, and then build your team in a way that complements you. So, of course, let's say you don't have the answer, or you realized, say you're the hustler, but then make sure that you get the hacker or a hippie as a co-founder, and make sure that when the decision comes about product, you actually, uh, give weightage to the opinions of the hacker, or when it comes to building the story, you give weightage to the opinions of the hippie or the artist of the group. Don't try to be the other person. So that would save a lot of people, a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion, and at the end of the day, will probably help, you know, align and build the team really well. So I guess before starting up, had I asked myself this question, I think I would have done a few things differently. Uh, so yeah, uh, that's episode 2 of How to Screw Up. Uh, I'm Piyush Verma, and I'll see you in the next one. If you liked this, please give me a like and do subscribe. This season is going to be around 10 to 12 episodes long. I'm not sure really, but we will be breaking down my decade-long journey of being in startups and in being in companies that have failed, if I may say so, in order to help anyone who's trying to start up at least not repeat the mistakes that we did. So, yeah, cheers.